While the world fixates on the immediate devastation and tactical maneuvers of the 12-day Israel-Iran war, there's one critical factor 99% of people are completely missing: the silent, systemic recalibration of global power networks that this conflict has triggered. The spectacle of missiles, drones, and ceasefires is only the surface. When we flip the lens and analyze from the outcome back to the origin, a much deeper game emerges. One in which the most significant winners are neither Israel nor Iran, but a constellation of actors and interests that have quietly positioned themselves to profit from the chaos, uncertainty, and shifting alliances. The perspective 99% of people are missing. The mainstream narrative frames the June 2025 Israel-Iran war as a dramatic escalation in a decades-old rivalry, a contest of military might and a test of American resolve. Headlines count the missiles, tally the dead, and speculate on the fate of Iran's nuclear program. But this is the view from inside the board. The complete picture only outsiders can see is that this war, brief as it was, has catalyzed a transformation in the architecture of Middle Eastern power and, crucially, in the global flows of capital, technology, and influence. Who really benefits? The silent winners won. Global defense and surveillance conglomerates, while Israel showcased its technological dominance, deploying upgraded Arrow missile systems, advanced drones, and multi-layered air defenses. The true beneficiaries are the global defense contractors and surveillance technology firms whose products were validated in the crucible of real combat. The war served as a live-fire marketing campaign, demonstrating not only the efficacy but the necessity of next-generation missile defense. Drone swarms and AI-driven battlefield management. Orders are already surging from anxious governments worldwide, eager to replicate Israel's 86% interception rate and near total UAV neutralization. The arms race has entered a new phase, with the bar for national security technology reset overnight. 2. Energy traders and maritime insurers. The war's threat to global energy supplies, real or perceived, sent oil and gas prices into a tailspin, with futures markets spiking on rumors of potential strikes against refineries and shipping lanes. Yet as the dust settles, it's clear that both sides deliberately avoided targeting critical energy infrastructure after the initial salvos. This restraint wasn't accidental. It was a calculated move that allowed energy traders, commodity hedge funds, and maritime insurers to profit handsomely from volatility without the risk of systemic collapse. The Red Sea, already a flashpoint due to Houthi activity, became even more central to global shipping risk calculations, driving up premiums and consolidating the market power of a handful of London and Singapore-based insurance syndicates. 3. Turkey and the Gulf states. The new regional brokers. While Iran's regional influence has been severely diminished, its proxy network degraded, its deterrence undermined, the vacuum is not being filled by Israel alone. Turkey, leveraging its unique position in post-Assad Syria and its growing ties with both Russia and the US, is emerging as a pivotal broker in the new Middle East order. The Gulf states, particularly the UAE and Saudi Arabia, are quietly expanding their diplomatic and economic reach, capitalizing on Iran's isolation to secure lucrative reconstruction contracts and new security partnerships. The war has accelerated the fragmentation of the old axis of resistance and opened the door for new alignments that will shape the region for decades. For China, the reluctant yet strategic beneficiary, perhaps the most overlooked winner, is China. As the US and Israel expended vast quantities of advanced munitions and political capital, China maintained a studied distance, positioning itself as a potential mediator and, crucially, as a key buyer of Iranian oil once the dust settles. Trump's post-ceasefire comments, explicitly allowing China to purchase Iranian oil to help get Iran back into shape, signal a tacit recognition of Beijing's growing leverage. With Russia bogged down in Ukraine and Europe distracted, China's ability to play all sides, energy buyer, infrastructure investor, diplomatic broker, has been quietly enhanced. Why did the event happen at this time? Reverse thinking demands that we ask not why did they attack, but why now. The answer lies in a convergence of strategic windows and closing opportunities. Israel's calculus of urgency. With Iran's nuclear enrichment reaching dangerous thresholds and the diplomatic track all but exhausted, Israeli leaders perceived a closing window to act before Iran achieved irreversible nuclear capability. The fall of Assad in Syria and the weakening of Hezbollah and Hamas created a rare moment of reduced proxy threat, allowing Israel to focus its full military might directly on Iran. U.S. political transition. The return of Donald Trump to the White House injected a new level of unpredictability, with his administration eager to demonstrate strength. And with U.S. domestic politics in flux, both Israel and Iran calculated that American support or restraint was up for grabs. The war became in part a test of the new administration's red lines and willingness to escalate. Global distraction and fatigue. With the world's attention fragmented by ongoing conflicts in Ukraine, Sudan, and the DRC, and with Western publics weary of endless Middle Eastern wars, the timing was ideal for a short, sharp conflict that could be contained and spun as a demonstration of resolve. The hidden connections. Linking the unseen dots. 1. The fall of Assad and the reordering of Syria. The collapse of the Assad regime in Syria, overshadowed by the Israel-Iran headlines, is perhaps the most consequential event for the future of the region, with Iran's primary land bridge to the Mediterranean severed, and its ability to supply Hezbollah and other proxies curtailed. The strategic logic of Israel's timing becomes clear. The war was as much about shaping the post-Assad order as it was about Iran's nuclear program. Turkey and Israel, once rivals, now find themselves competing, and occasionally cooperating, for influence in a fragmented Syria. 2. The Red Sea as the new global choke point. The limited participation of the Houthis and the careful avoidance of catastrophic strikes on shipping lanes reveal a deeper game. The Red Sea is rapidly becoming the critical flashpoint in the global power struggle. Russia, through its engagement with the Houthis, is leveraging Yemeni instability as a bargaining chip in its broader confrontation with the West. Meanwhile, the UAE eyes the chaos as an opportunity to expand its military footprint and control key ports. The war has thus accelerated the transformation of the Red Sea from a regional to a global security concern. 3. The quiet collapse of the Iran-Russia-China axis. While much has been made of the anti-Western coalition led by Russia, China and Iran, the war exposed its fragility. Iran's inability to mount a robust response, Russia's preoccupation with Ukraine, and China's reluctance to be drawn into direct confrontation have all contributed to a recalibration of alliances. The perception of Iranian vulnerability has emboldened regional actors and undermined the deterrence value of the axis of resistance. From results back to causes, the chess master's view. When we analyze from the outcome back to the cause, the war appears less as an explosion of ancient hatreds and more as a calculated reset, engineered, or at least exploited by actors seeking to redraw the map of power, profit, and influence. The demonstration of Israeli and American military superiority was not merely about Iran. It was a message to every regional and global actor contemplating a challenge to the status quo. The restraint shown in targeting energy infrastructure was not humanitarian, but a signal to global markets. Volatility can be manufactured and managed for profit, without risking systemic collapse. The timing, coinciding with a distracted and divided West, allowed for a rapid, contained conflict that reset deterrence without triggering a wider war. Historical pattern recognition, old scripts, new actors. This is not the first time a Middle Eastern war has served as a laboratory for new weapons, a catalyst for realigning alliances, or a windfall for distant powers. The Suez Crisis of 1956, the Yom Kippur War of 1973, and the Gulf War of 1991 all followed similar scripts. A local conflict becomes the stage for global competition, technological innovation, and economic upheaval. But the 2025 war is different in one crucial respect. the speed and transparency of information flows, the integration of AI and cyber capabilities, and the unprecedented level of economic interdependence mean that the ripple effects are faster, broader, and harder to control. Mass psychology. The reality behind the information smokescreen. Why did the media spotlight the missiles, the casualties, the existential threats, while largely ignoring the financial windfalls, the shifting trade routes, and the quiet consolidation of power by Turkey, the Gulf states, and China? The answer is simple. Mass psychology demands drama. Heroes and villains, the real winners, prefer to operate in the shadows, leveraging volatility for profit and influence while the world's attention is elsewhere. The 50-year future perspective. How will 2075 remember this war? Viewed from 2075, this conflict will not be remembered primarily for its destruction or its fleeting victories. It will be seen as the moment when the Middle East's old order finally shattered, when new networks of power and profit emerged, and when the global chessboard was subtly but irrevocably rearranged. The arms race it triggered will be seen as the starting gun for a new era of AI-driven, unmanned, and networked warfare. The fragmentation of Iran's regional influence will be recognized as the catalyst for a decade of proxy realignments, with Turkey, the Gulf, and even Israel jockeying for dominance in a post-Iranian Levant. The quiet empowerment of China, as both energy broker and diplomatic arbiter, will be understood as a key inflection point in the long transition from American to multipolar global leadership. Future shock. If this analysis proves correct, we'll witness a series of unexpected scenarios within the next 2 years. A dramatic surge in global defense spending, with Israel's war-tested systems becoming the gold standard for missile defense and drone warfare worldwide. The emergence of Turkey as the indispensable power broker in Syria and the wider Levant, leveraging both U.S. and Russian interests to its advantage. A wave of Gulf-led investments in post-war reconstruction and security, consolidating their role as both financiers and enforcers of the new order. China quietly deepening its energy and infrastructure ties across the Middle East, using its enhanced leverage to shape the terms of the next round of great power competition. A proliferation of proxy conflicts, as the collapse of the old Iranian network creates both opportunities and dangers for non-state actors and regional rivals. A new, more volatile equilibrium in global energy and shipping markets, with the Red Sea and Eastern Mediterranean emerging as the critical choke points of the coming decade. What no one dares to acknowledge. The reality behind the information smokescreen is that the 2025 Israel-Iran war was never just about Iran or Israel. It was about resetting the rules, redistributing the spoils, and preparing the ground for the next phase of global competition. The silent winners are already cashing in. The rest of the world is only beginning to realize that the real game has moved on. What if everything we think we know about this conflict is merely a smokescreen? Who is the one party that absolutely doesn't want this war to end? Why is the fall of Assad more significant than the missile strikes dominating media coverage? If this were a 10-move chess game, the next strategic move is already being planned, not in Tehran or Jerusalem, but in Ankara, Abu Dhabi, and Beijing. The complete picture only outsiders can see. This was not the end of a war, but the opening gambit of a new era.